Okay, now we'll call the meeting to order. Lisa, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Chow,
Here.
Ms. Drucker,
You have to unmute
here.
yourself, Beth.
I
wanted to go to a new country because I never been in other country and I wanted to see some other people.
And we have some background noise, so whoever is producing that should mute themselves.
okay.
Okay, you want to continue, Lisa?
I see.
Beth is here. We know she's here because we can see her.
Ms. Sesquicentennial,
Here.
Ms. McDonald,
Here.
Mr. Pierce,
Here.
Mr. Swanson,
Here.
Ms. Thomas,
Here.
Ms. Newsom,
Here.
Ms. Canifex,
Here.
Mr. Canning,
Here.
Mr. Squires,
Here.
Mr. Jacoby.
Here.
Thank
The
you.
next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of the meeting from April 13, 2021. Are there any additions or corrections that anyone wants to add at this time? April 13. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
My name is Mohammed Nadeem. I'm from
So moved.
Pakistan. I wanted to go to a
I second.
Alan, is there a second?
I, Lisa McDonald, second the motion to
Thank
approve
you.
the minutes.
Would you call the roll again, Lisa, on the motion?
Mr. Swanson,
Aye.
Ms. McDonald,
Oh, aye.
Ms. Chow,
Aye.
Ms. Drucker,
Here. Aye.
thank you. Ms. Sesquicentennial,
Aye.
Mr. Pierce,
Aye.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Newsom,
Aye.
Ms. Canifex,
Aye.
Mr. Canning,
Aye.
Mr. Squires,
Aye.
and Mr. Jacoby.
Yes.
Excuse me,
Next
Lisa,
item on the agenda.
I was not called on roll. It's Julie, and
Oh,
I'm here.
Okay, Julie, you are not technically a member of the committee now, so that's why your
Oh,
name
I'm
wasn't
not.
called.
Okay.
You are kind of performing with one of our working
Of
groups.
council.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Never mind then.
so that's the explanation.
Okay.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is where do we go from here? The next steps. And I submitted a memo to you, which I assume you have all read. And so I'm not going to go into it in any depth, but what it basically says is we're kind of drawing the phase of soliciting new ideas to an end because we've received a lot already. And what's coming in lately, although we got a great memo today, which will be circulated, but we have received a lot of ideas, but now I think we can bring that phase to an end and start making some important decisions, especially about the scope of the committee's involvement in the Sesquicentennial versus what other people might do to join in on taking on responsibilities, particularly other governmental units and organizations in the community. So having read the memo, it proposes a course of action, and I'll open it for discussion. Whoever wants to speak up about whether you think this is the way to go or something else would be the way to go. Who wants to talk?
I will start, John. I will start by saying I agree with the concept. It's just, it's very difficult to, some of these ideas, 15 ideas can be boiled down into 2 or 3, but somebody needs to do that boiling down. And this kind of Zoom meeting can't possibly do that. So I think everybody here is capable. And if we break up the work and go into specific areas, we'll get to the conclusion in the time we need to get there. So I agree with the concept totally.
Anyone else?
John, it's George. Yeah, I agree with the concept. And the one thing I've noticed, our little subgroup, which has met a couple times, just the process of meeting has caused several ideas to kind of evolve down to a few. And I think that's what will happen with other groups as they meet.
All right.
I would say that is true of our meeting, the Historical Society. We operated the same way.
Right.
Is there anyone who wants to take the other side and proceed in some other way? All right, well, then let's move on to the list that was attached to the memo dealing with who we're going to refer various ideas to and what we're going to retain for ourselves, at least for the time being. This is not written in stone. We can always resurrect some idea and bring it back to our committee, or we could always decide that something our committee was looking into would better be performed by somebody else. So this is not written in stone, but it's a list of suggested topics for us to deal with at this time and other topics that we would refer to, like the Historical Society and others. So does anybody have any comments on that list? All right, well, we're moving right through the agenda, I guess. The next topic on the agenda is the logo. And I'm going to ask Alex to kind of summarize where we are on the logo and the website.
Yeah, so we did meet with the two of the developers over at Basecamp last week. There was a couple people on the call that represented the committee. But basically, as you can see in that memo, they provided us 4 logo concepts that the committee can kind of choose between. We decided that we really wanted to just make it, well, we figured we should frame it that so far, we have already started paying a couple invoices to Basecamp because they are doing our website development as well as the logo development. So if we decided that we did not want to select one of the 4 ideas that they provided to us, that is going to require us to ask them for more logo designs, which would probably lead to the village incurring additional costs. So we figured that we wanted to kind of make sure that point was known in this week's discussion regarding the logo concepts that were delivered to us. Anyway, that being said, as you can see, the majority of the logo concepts, they do revolve around the concept of a railroad. And as John pointed out in that meeting that we had last week with the developers, we decided that we wanted to pursue that railroad idea because it was really the basis for Wilmette. Being a stop on the rail line from Chicago to Milwaukee is what led to our village being established in the first place and the growth over the course of the next several decades. So that's kind of why we thought centering a logo for the celebration would make a lot of sense if it was centered around railroads. As you'll see, though, I believe it's idea 3 that Wilmette with the exclamation point taking the first, the taking place of the I. That was kind of a more like celebratory, just a kind of more fresh feel rather than the railroad idea. So anyway, all that being said, these 4 concepts is what's been delivered to us so far from Basecamp. If we want to try to solicit additional designs, we are most likely going to incur additional costs. So if we are comfortable, or if the committee really starts to think that one of the logo concepts that has already been presented to us is ideal, then I think it would probably be smart to take a vote. And doesn't necessarily be at this meeting, but I think we should probably select the logo sooner rather than later. I know at the last meeting, co-chair Jacoby kept trying to remind the committee of the sense of urgency that we need to create in terms of event planning. So I feel like if we went back to Basecamp asking for additional logo designs, we might be bogged down in this process, and it might just kind of take us off a timeline that we need to be on. But that being said, it is absolutely possible if we wanted additional logo designs to choose between, we could absolutely do that. But we just wanted to make that known in this meeting's memo. Other than that, though, as you'll see, several designs. I'm not sure if there's a preference for any, or if a majority of the committee members feel one is better than the others. We can discuss that. But really, when we were talking with Basecamp, a lot of our discussion kind of revolved around, what's the goal of our social media messaging? And it seems like, the goals is to push this celebration and to make it have a celebratory feel. And at the same time, if we do decide to go with one of the concepts that focuses on the railroad, we are incorporating the village's history and kind of that educational component of the celebration as a whole as well. So these were the 4 concepts that were decided. We can discuss which ones we have preferences to, and then from there, me, Lisa, and then if Lindsay and Ann are still wanting to help out with social media or the logo concept stuff, we can have them CC'd on any emails between Lisa, myself, and Basecamp. But from here on out, I figured we'd show you what we have so far, and then committee members can determine if one of those 4 works, or if it doesn't, then kind of next steps from there.
All right, so with that, we'll have a discussion of what you feel about the logos that have been presented to us as possibilities, any other ideas you might have. And if we don't resolve this tonight in terms of what the logo will be, and we send our working group back to the designer, we'll do so with the idea that they'll come up with a final recommendation, and we'll go with it. So who wants to go first? Lisa McDonald?
Yeah, I may be ignorant, but in terms of the history of the railroad, were there any other stops along the way? And I don't know that. When
Yes,
it would start, like Lake Forest?
There were stops in Evanston. Winnetka's stop came before ours.
Okay.
Kenilworth's stop came after ours.
So then my question would be, how does that differentiate us really from any of the other villages, the fact that we were a stop on the railroad? I mean, that was what came up to mind when I saw that. I was just curious.
Well, it was 1872 when the village was founded shortly after the railroad station was established. The stop didn't exist. All the stops were north of us and south of us. So the idea was that the train was instrumental in the creation of the village. That's the thinking.
Okay.
John, it's
Yes.
Kathy. I guess I'm more along the lines of Lisa. Thinking along those lines, I really don't think that the train should be our logo, because I don't really think that it was that central. A lot of people in the 19th century worked in town. I mean, they didn't, they weren't commuters. That became something a little bit later. And I just don't, it kind of reduces the history of Wilmette or the celebration to a train stop or the railroad. And there's, to me, I just wonder if the people who created the logo really know much about Wilmette. It's kind of seemed like, I don't know, an arbitrary thing to pick about the village. I was more interested in the exclamation point, I guess. It seemed more celebratory, and I realize it doesn't relate to our history, but we can come up with that in other ways, I think. So that's my take on it. I'm not that fond of the railroad connection.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but there are some of us on the call that, is there a screen being shared? We cannot see the logo choices. Where are we able to see those?
It was included in the
logo
meeting
choice-
packet, but I'll
You
share
have-
my screen now. That way you guys can take a look at it.
Okay.
All right, so this is the idea one that was provided to us. So like I said, there were 4 ideas in total. Idea 2 is here. Idea 3, so this is the one that doesn't really center around the concept of the railroad. And then idea 4 was, well, obviously, as you can see, and then Basecamp actually suggested maybe utilizing idea 4 along with idea 3. But yeah, these were the concepts that were provided to us so far. So obviously 1, 2, 3, and 4.
And item 4 is not really intended to be the logo. It's intended to be a tool for communicating information.
This is Julie Usum from the chamber. So, years ago, we did that rebranding. And so there's the tree that is the symbol of Wilmette that, that we've been using, and it's in the Wilmette logo. And I mean, I'm just wondering if that might be more appropriate to something that everybody sort of has come to associate with our town, to work that in. I'm sorry, but I don't like any of those. I mean, I feel like they haven't incorporated the fonts that we've been using, and I don't know. I just feel like I have to agree with Kathy. It looks like it was done by someone who doesn't really know our town.
Vern, you had your hand up.
I did. Yeah, I had some questions about it from a different perspective. I thought the railroad theme makes a lot of sense as related to Old Wilmette, but it excludes West Wilmette, because that was West Wilmette came really into the being through the annexation of Grosse Pointe, and then it really developed as a result of the Edens Expressway. But that raises the question, to what extent are we going to focus on the original Wilmette? Or are we going to talk about the community as a whole?
If you're asking me, I say we're talking about the community as a whole.
Then the railroad has nothing to do with about half the community. That was my problem, my question anyway.
Okay, George Pierce has his hand up. George?
Yeah, I just put a comment in the chat that I agreed with Kathy's comment that if we had to pick one of the 4, I would go with number 3. I view it as more celebratory than the others. Yeah.
Alan?
Yeah, I agree. I tested this out with a couple people, and I had to explain the railroad. So I think that probably doesn't work as a visual aid if you got to explain it. But going back to what Julie said, the way the tree is, I'm looking at on our letterhead here, you could easily replace the top of the exclamation point with the tree. And that would get the tree on here as centered and the different color, and you'd really see it. But it would still make the same point that it's Wilmette with an exclamation point.
Interesting idea, Alan.
Yeah.
Who else has, George, you still got your hand up.
I don't know how to take it down. Sorry.
Lisa?
The one that I thought that was interesting was through the memo that came through the day with 150 reasons to love Wilmette, and that lends itself, as a central theme to include the Baja Temple, East, West, the tree, everything. But I don't, as a rift. But I know it's hard graphically to do it. But if I had a T-shirt with 150 things to love about Wilmette, I would buy the T-shirt, because it would be like you could make it a history of all the things that have gone on in Wilmette. But I know graphically it may be complicated, but that's just throwing a wrench in it.
Okay. Alice?
I like Julie's idea. I think if we somehow incorporate the tree, whether with an exclamation mark or not, and we can work around it with 150 with years attached to somehow with a tree, so people can associate that is, because that is the logo we have been using for a while. So I would like to have a simple design but to enhance the 150 celebration.
All right. Interestingly, a tree is probably going to be a project, based on the work that our subgroup has done so far, the 150 tree idea. So anyone else have a thought? Well,
my only thought is it sounds like from the comments that we may actually need to go back to the drawing board. It doesn't sound like we have a consensus of we're all focusing, whether it's the exclamation logo or not, we're going to be asking the creators, to go back to the drawing board and make some edits one way or another. So that sounds like what I'm hearing, at least.
I think that's what everybody's hearing. So I think some interesting ideas were presented tonight.
Yeah, I'll just interject real quick. So what I could do is I can basically lay out a draft email to Basecamp, the people who are developing the logo, just kind of including some of the comments that were just said in this discussion, and I can run that draft email by by committee members. And if you guys think I missed anything or have anything to add, you can let me know, and I can send it over to them. So I agree. I think back to the drawing board sounds like the consensus.
All right, is everybody in agreement, or is there somebody that would like to say something in opposition to that course of action?
John, this is Chris. I'm in agreement, but I think Julie Newsom brings up a good idea. We came up with the tree logo back when we were rebranding Wilmette, and Julie and I have been emailing back and forth with Lucas about revisiting the Follow Me to Wilmette concept we had years ago, which I pointed out stuck in the craw of many mayors across northern Cook County because Pace buses had this sign that said, "Follow me to Wilmette," driving through these other towns. But that was the first real exposure we had of the tree logo and the font that we're using on the village vehicles right now in the letterhead. But it makes me think about ways to use whatever this logo is going to be, and maybe we incorporate the official village logo, because when you're talking about the trains, there is a Metra train that is called the Village of Wilmette. As part of the 150, do we want to wrap that in a celebratory wrap, telling people who are, on the train or see the train going by, Wilmette celebrating their 150th? Along the same lines, do we want to have a bus campaign, a bus ad campaign, again, incorporating the logo, going through other communities in northern Cook County, telling them we're celebrating the 150th. So I think in talking to Basecamp, I think we have to start throwing out some real world examples of where we want to use this logo, and not limit it to a trademark or a copyright mark on a t-shirt or a cookbook or something like that, but big splash, perhaps on public transit, perhaps other places. So I think that's the context of where we think about, what we've already invested in. And I think the village has now completely gone to the new logo. So, we do have that as a base to build on.
Okay. Well, Alex, can you take those thoughts as well and include them in what you will be sending the consultant?
Yep, and if it's preferable, like I said, I can run a draft email by the committee members too. That way, if in case there's anything to add, so I'll plan on basically sending you guys a template of kind of the comments that I've compiled from here, and then we can go from there.
Is there anything else to be said on this subject? Okay, well then let's move forward to funding and fundraising. This is on the agenda just to provoke a discussion of ideas that we can record and then probably refer to a working group who can take these ideas and develop them. But the question is, what ideas the members of the committee have at the moment for fundraising? Should we be fundraising? If so, what means should we utilize to raise funds? And incidentally, we do have a fund established and have actually already received a contribution. So it was found to be a legitimate exercise of the village's financial power to create a special account for the Sesquicentennial, provided that the purposes of it were clearly defined, which we're going to have to do as we develop our ideas for the Sesquicentennial. But in any event, who's got some thoughts on fundraising?
John, is Kathy. I would say that for fundraising, lots of times people want to, potential donors, particularly businesses, and Julie could speak to this maybe more, but they would like to know what they're, you know, what they might get out of it. I don't mean it in a that to be in a I just mean, you know, if we said we're looking for sponsors for the calendar that's going to go out to everybody, for example, say if we printed a calendar of events, and we, you know, and then we'd say we're looking for sponsors for this for, you know, so much money, or we're going to have a dinner and we need sponsors for that. So some businesses locally might say, fine, that's fine. I'll just give a money to a, you know, into a general pot of money, but a lot others I think might also be interested in what are you going to use the money for, and would I, if I be a sponsor, would my name be on it or something like that? Would I get any recognition for it? Or what kind of recognition? So people are going to ask that question, like, how might I be recognized? And maybe not so much at a personal level, if a individual level, but certainly if we're looking for a bank or some other business in the community or that serves the community, they might ask that.
Yes, I think that Kathy's really right about that. And I do want to, sorry to be such a wet blanket today, but the businesses, you know, it's no secret, times are really tough for them. And I think that if you're putting an eye towards seeking corporate sponsorship, the only approach really is to go to the ones that would be more in a position like a bank or one of the larger businesses that, you know, may have made it through the pandemic and maybe even did well during that time. But the small businesses, the mom and pops and the really small, they're going to be really hard pressed, not only to donate money, but even to donate like gift cards and things like that. So I think we have to be mindful of that. I mean, I think that residents could get really excited about some kind of a raffle like they do for housing our own, you know. I mean, maybe if there was some kind of a raffle for a prize, people would buy tickets, I think, for something like that. And I think that you would be successful in soliciting residents for donations, you know, just like, you know, $10, $25, $100. I think residents would be excited enough to pitch in for something like that, but they would need to know, what is this money going for?
Well, they would not only need to know, but they would have to approve of what it's going for. So I think trees, people will donate for.
Right.
Public art, I think they'll donate for. There are other things that they will donate for. Alan?
Well, I was gonna say that about trees. I think you could get individual sponsors for individual trees, and I think people would do that. I think I think you would be able to get people to donate specifically to an art element if you could identify what it was. But I think a lot of the stuff in general, maybe for enhanced fireworks or something, but I you know, it's got to tie in specifically what the money's going for.
And I think we've been told by legal counsel that we have to enumerate what that will be anyway. So
yeah,
we're going to have to specify what we're asking people to donate for. Any further comments?
Yeah, would it be possible, I don't know, on the website with the central calendar to sell sponsorships where they they can run, the businesses can run, some ads or whatever? Or is that not kosher? I don't know. But that's one way to raise, I don't mean it that way, but that's one way you might raise money in terms of, listing the sponsorships on that web.
I think that's an interesting idea. We should look into it.
Or do little 30 minutes ads that they might run that talk about Wilmette, but also talk about them and their relationship, maybe informationals about their history in Wilmette that they pay for and get exposure.
Other comments?
John, you could also sell things, the t-shirt ideas come up, for example, and if you've thought of something you could sell that was at a decent price point, but you could, that you would make some profit out of, you could possibly do that. Now that might not bring in a lot of money, I really don't know, but it might help. It might be something to help, and it would also get the it's a nice promotional item.
I've spoken to the village manager about that subject, licensing, for example, the logo to be placed on caps and shirts and that kind of thing. And he checked into that and reported back to me that that would be a lawful, proper thing for the village to do. So another idea that he mentioned and we discussed, I thought about a pavers project and mentioned that to him, where people get their name on a paver for $150, something of that sort. He said that the village is going to be, is studying a project that would enhance the look and usefulness of the alley that runs behind the Baker building. It's a brick alley. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? And okay, the Baker building, let's see, what's in the Baker building now? It's the office building on Wilmette Avenue. And the particular alley, brick alley, runs from Wilmette Avenue to parking, doesn't it? In the back.
It's a the 12th Street.
12th
Say
Street.
it again, Chris.
12th Street.
Well,
yeah. And the idea would be to create that into a space that could be blocked off from time to time and used for events or that kind of thing. And anyway, he's going to provide renderings to us so we can see what that looks like. But at least on the surface of it, he was amenable to the idea of, okay, you want to sell some pavers? We could integrate them into that project. So there's another idea.
Well, John, along a similar line, I know George Pierce is upset with my Cubs in my office here, being the White Sox fan that he is, but both the North Side team and the South Side team, for example, sell off parts of their stadium every year, whether it's old box seats or flags, the W flag or the L flag, which makes me wonder, is there any parts of Wilmette that might be something that someone would be willing to buy as type of a collector's keepsake? If you think about when a new basketball court's put down, they sell off the old basketball court. When a new football field gets put down, they sell off the old one. I'm wondering if there's anything in the village inventory between now and the Sesquicentennial that someone might be interested in buying as a keepsake of Wilmette.
Interesting idea. We'll have to come up with what that item is or items, but yeah, if we don't need it and can sell it, why not?
Well, I can tell you near the corner of 15th and Forest, there's a manhole cover that says Village of Arlington Heights on it. I think we could probably sell that back to Arlington Heights. If you're ever walking down Forest, just look down. It's right there.
Okay, are there any other thoughts on this before we end the discussion? Lindsay?
Lindsay, yeah. I think so for fundraising, it's such a broad topic and there are so many different ways you can go. I feel like this kind of falls into one of those, like the tech logo website design and like the group that's brainstorming ideas for the infrastructure improvement. It almost seems like a really big task for all of us to kind of commit to. I would almost recommend I mean, this is just me speaking, obviously, if this is something that would be better served in a smaller committee to talk about, discuss, vet ideas, and then, bring back, and then always have like the group ideas available. But,
Well, Lindsay, that's exactly what this memo says, that a fundraising working group might carry forth this kind of work.
Right.
The purpose of talking about it tonight was just to generate some thinking and ideas on it, and I think that's happened. But yeah, we do need a working group to take this and run with it.
and
Anything
then
further?
I saw somebody with their hand raised. I think Heather Oliver has her hand raised. I know she's a guest. She messaged me on the
Heather, do you
side and
have your
asked if
hand
somebody could
raised?
let her in or let her speak.
Well, we're getting to the public
Oh, gotcha.
input section anyway, so why don't we move to that unless somebody still has something to say about fundraising. Okay. Next meeting date. I think we probably could keep this moving along if we met in 2 weeks. Is that agreeable to everybody? Does Wednesday at 4 o'clock work for most people? We have 100% attendance today, so seems to.
I'll be out of town.
Okay.
What is that
Anybody
date?
else? Sorry, anybody else who wouldn't be able to attend?
John, this is Chris. I have a hard stop at 5 o'clock that day.
Okay. Anyone else? Chris, we don't want you to miss it, so maybe we could set it for 3:30. Would that,
You're talking May 12th, right?
if that's 2 weeks from today, yeah.
Would you want to try to start at 3:30? If people have to leave early?
Chris, does that work for you, 3:30?
3:30 would be is fine with me, but let's not let my calendar dictate 13 other people. So
It also works for me. That's the only reason I suggested it.
Well, does it not work for somebody? All right, there seems to be a willingness to try 3:30 2 weeks from now. And so now we're at the public comment section of the meeting, and anyone in our attendance group who's not a member of the committee is welcome to speak now. I don't know, Alex, if there's anyone other than Heather. You show anybody here?
It's kind of hard because some people join from external emails anyway. But what we usually do for village board meetings is we just take it down a list of names that want to speak. So I can kind of jot it down. So if you'd like to make a public comment, you can speak up now. I'll add you to the list.
We have Heather #1 on the list.
Okay, is there anyone else? Yeah, anyone else in the call that would like to make a public comment?
John, I have a comment on YouTube when we get to that point.
Okay, well, let's hear from Heather. Heather, turn on your mic, or we'll turn it on.
Can you hear?
From home. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
can.
I was going to speak on sponsorship because Lindsay and I worked together on the Wilmette Beach Bash, and if you would consider putting together packages. So when we did the Wilmette Beach Bash for the Wilmette Foundation, we had sponsorship packages, and then individual donors and businesses knew what they could get at what level. So if you donated $100, you would be on this sign. If you donated $200, you would be on the website. And I think that would be a good model for you guys to consider for this project.
Okay.
But I think you could also try and reach out to, you have many famous Wilmettians who have come through Wilmette. So that might be another way to get monies. So. And then I'm
Okay.
also wondering why, and maybe you have, I don't see anyone representing the schools. And I think the schools and incorporating District 39 and District 37 would be another great resource of volunteer and money for you guys.
Okay, well, I have spoken to the presidents of the boards of both District 37 and 39. District 39 has designated 3 of their principals to be their working group for putting together a program for the schools. They are very enthusiastic about participating. District 37 as well has said they are very enthusiastic and will work with us.
I
They
think
haven't
I'm
gotten any more
thinking,
specific than that.
I'm thinking from like a volunteer perspective, like how the Wilmette Foundation helps the Park District. Like I think if maybe someone from the District 39 Foundation would work with you guys too, that would be a great way to tap into volunteers and fundraising.
Okay, thank you. Lisa, you have input from another source?
Yes, we received a comment on YouTube. It was at 4:11, so I think that was under our logo discussion from Emily Axelrod. She writes, do we have budget constraints? And I'm not sure we really kind of got into that.
Well, we will have budgets constraints. I mean, we don't have unlimited funds, so.
But we're going to sell the T-shirt, right?
I don't get your point, Alan.
Well, we're going to raise money. I mean, for the I mean, you know, the logo is going to generate money as opposed to cost money.
We hope so. We hope a number of activities that we engage in will raise some money, including simply asking for contributions. Who's got their hand up? Alice?
I do, yeah. As we're just talking, an idea came to me. How about maybe you have discussed this before, since I'm kind of new here, to have someone like Jeffrey Bear to come and talk about Wilmette. And, you know, you can, I mean, people want to see him. People will pay big dollars to go see him. Don't you think? I would.
That's a good idea. We actually had that suggestion. So that
oh, really? Okay. Yeah. I just didn't know that, but I just thought I thought it would be pretty cool to have him come.
I think I agree. It would be cool. All right. Is there anything else to come before the committee?
John, it's George. You know, over the past years, I think once in a while when people pay for their village sticker or utility bills, sometimes the village will allow Housing Our Own or someone else to also be included there, and they can get a contribution. And maybe the village would allow this committee to be part of that in the future as a way of raising money.
Okay. Between now and the next meeting, we'll try to put together some working groups and maybe even solicit who would be interested in serving on those and present that at our next meeting and go from there. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Lisa, thank you. Alice, did you second?
I'll second.
Who said that?
Lindsay.
Thank you, Lindsay. Roll call, please.
Ms. Chow,
Yes.
Ms. Drucker,
Yes.
Ms. Hussey Arnson,
Yes.
Ms. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Pierce,
Yes.
Mr. Swanson,
Aye.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Newsom. I'm going to assume. We'll come back. Ms. Canifax,
Yes.
Mr. Canning, if he's still
Aye.
with us, Mr. Squires,
Yes.
and Mr. Jacoby.
Yes. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all for your being with us, and it was good to hear from you all.